China cutting tariffs on Canadian canola. That's a huge export item to China. Canada is going to allow in a small number of Chinese-made electric vehicles, only about 3% of our market. We're joined now by Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe. His province is a huge producer of canola, and actually he was on the trip to Beijing with the Prime Minister. Premier, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for making some time, and a belated Happy New Year to all your listeners.
Thank you very much. Obviously, Saskatchewan canola farmers pleased here. It was frustrating for them to have that major market blocked off. What do you plan to do? Can you give us some idea of the losses and what has the province been doing to try to help out farmers?
Well, the losses in many cases have maybe not yet been realized at the farm gate as simply what was happening is people weren't moving their canola. And what is going to be enabled or be allowed to happen now is that canola is going to start moving off from the farm gate to markets like China, and ultimately it's going to push the price up a little bit as well, and push some of the ag industry back into the profit zone. That being said, if there is some losses that have been realized this far, there would have been some at the farm gate, but mostly, I'd say, in the export sector with the folks that had crops pre-priced and things of that nature, and then had to sell it into a depressed market because it wasn't the Chinese market wasn't accessible. All of that being said, this is a huge step forward for not only the Canadian agricultural economy, but in general, the Canadian economy. And so very much a positive for us as Canadians to restore trade that we had with the country of China. And then I would point to the MOUs with respect to some of the opportunities that we have to actually expand our exports to China in the space of energy, forestry, and other products.
Of course, Canada's canola exports dominated by the US and China. It's about 90%. We saw the Simpson Centre for Food at the University of Calgary just warning that it's dangerous. We're too dependent on those two markets, and both countries are happy to use tariffs as a political weapon. Why has Canada not done a better job of diversifying?
Well, one, those are the two largest markets in the world, and two, they are premium markets. They pay some of the highest prices in the world, and so those are the markets that you want to be in if you want to be paid a premium for your product. And we've worked, I would say, quite hard and I'll speak on Saskatchewan's behalf, but the canola industry more generally, to find our way into the China market, because it is a premium market, and that's been an effort that has been going on for years, if not decades, and continues to this day. I think there are some opportunities as we look ahead, whether it be domestic, North American, or even into the European, in the renewable fuels or the biofuels market, for us to expand some of our production and our oil production into that space. And so it's an interesting report because it does highlight where we are, but we are where we are for a reason. But I think it also is an opportunity for us to reflect as to, where are we going with respect to our reliance on, various countries and various markets, and what is such an uncertain trade environment globally right now.
The Ontario's premier frustrated that any Chinese electric vehicles are coming in. He's calling them spy cars. And there are observers who say we have to be wary of this software that comes with these Chinese cars. The Chinese, to some extent, are playing provinces off against each other, aren't they? They're doing something that could hurt Ontario, but they are also offering something that could help Saskatchewan.
Yeah, I actually disagree with that statement to some degree. First of all, with respect to being a spy car or such, people should look in the back of their telephone and just check out where it's made, and it might not be your car that is listening to you when you're speaking in a meeting, or to your friends. So I would encourage folks to just do that if they're concerned about the technology. Second to that, yes, Saskatchewan has a significant agriculture industry, but so does Canada. Whether it's canola, seafood, pulse crops, are grown in many, many provinces, including Ontario, across Canada. And we have a strong and vibrant Canadian industry that is going to benefit from this restoration of agricultural trade. And I would say Canada is going to benefit from some of the opportunities that I think we can capitalize on in months, not years, with respect to additional trade with China as well. And with respect to Premier Ford, he's doing exactly what the Premier of Ontario should, which is represent the auto workers in the manufacturing sector that are there. And I think there's further conversation to happen between Premier Ford and other premiers and the federal government and the Prime Minister on how we're working together to support the future of the auto industry in Canada. So I think many conversations yet to come in that space.
Just finally, Premier, we've only about a minute. Sorry about that. It's interesting the difference between the two markets. The big category that the USA takes is oil, whereas the Chinese take seed. Why is that?
Well, you may see that start to shift. When you hear conversations around TMX or an additional pipeline to the West Coast,
I was talking about canola oil. I beg your pardon, Premier. I was talking about canola oil. Sorry.
Yeah. Oil versus seed. Yeah, sorry, I was going on the crude oil. With respect to canola oil, there is a significant amount of crush capacity in China. And so our canola oil numbers have been dropping over the last number of years. And that tariff is still on. We'll work to get it removed. But the seed is a much larger number by value, as is the meal. And I would say the meal is important just operationally for our domestic crush industry, as it is an outlet for that meal so that we can continue to crush canola oil domestically. So although oil is important to us globally with our sales, we can find markets outside of China. The seed and the meal are imperative to the success of the canola industry this year and heading into next year. So we're pretty happy, and I think the ag industry is pretty happy with the results of this agreement.
Thank you very much, Premier. Really appreciate it. That is Scott Moe, the Premier of Saskatchewan.